Okay, this is my part two presentation to the Reiner family on this issue of mental illness, which you've been struggling with for a decade now. Here's two other disaster stories where the mental health system didn't work. And so Britney Spears, she was getting harassed by the paparazzi, and after she had a young child, and so that obviously would traumatize her, and severe stalking, and so she's having a breakdown from that, and then she goes into lockdown. And a UCLA professor, I believe, diagnosed her as having dementia, which enabled the courts to take over her life for the next 8 or so years, and forced drugging. So since before then, I've been working on contacting UCLA professors, and I've got a couple interested now, which I may talk about, so who agree with everything that I've said so far. So everything that I say can be established as truth very quickly. Regarding mental health and physical health, I have over 100 pages of excerpts of the research from Dr. Figley, Dr. Bruce Perry, and all the others saying exactly everything that I'm saying. So, but the doctors don't know about it. So, schizophrenia, your brother didn't have schizophrenia, and giving him drugs for schizophrenia, probably in multiple bad combinations. Veterans coming back from the Vietnam War were getting diagnosed as schizophrenia, and that's what motivated this group, along with Jane Fonda, to get the whole thing, heard in Congress, in the Senate, and then forced into the DSM. The DSM didn't want it; had to be forced on them. So the DSM is a book of labels, and everything in there is caused by stress and toxic stress overload and post-traumatic stress. So, but, these things can creep up on you. So not just because your brother's situation doesn't mean that he was abused as a child in your family. Could have been just maybe your dad was working too much. Okay. That's what they do in Hollywood, is they work them 70, 80, 100 hours a week. So, that's relevant. So issues can develop. Let's say that was the issue. Then, there could have been other issues that caused stress in the pregnancy, or, in your life somehow at that time, that cause certain rifts in the family. And so Dr. Figley's treatment is family therapy, where you bring the whole family in and you talk about and you get everything up on the table, but you got to find somebody that's really skilled at it. And if you're putting kids on drugs at a young age because they're, having problems, making connection with other kids at school, they're having problem making friends, something, is happening in the relationship with the dad, it needs to be addressed. You got to find somebody who's skilled, and they're not all skilled. So it's something that I learned over the last 30 years or so. A long time ago, I went to my own psychology sessions, Um, See, I grew up with these things in my family myself. There was some domestic violence. My dad had a problem. He's working too many hours. He's having like anger fits. You know, I have amnesia for most of that. I didn't even know it. I didn't even deal with it until around 2000 when I started working with my dad, actually. And so, and I discovered that in the field of psychology, you know, your dad said it right. He said that he's not sure he should have trusted. No, he said he shouldn't have trusted the psychologists because their programs weren't working. But what alternative did he had, and what alternative did he have after the party when there was a fight that happened and there seemed to be a severe problem? So there was nobody for anybody to call. That's a separate issue. Okay, so let me circle back around. Okay, so President Obama and his wife were supposed to have a meeting with Rob. At the music awards a few years ago, Obama came on with a lady from Texas, who was a domestic violence survivor, and she said it was like a PSA, public service announcement. Obama and this lady saying, if you're experiencing domestic violence, okay, that's what Rob was experiencing, is his son was having a problem which was leading to domestic violence and threats over years. Okay, and it was up and down. It wasn't always he was nice most of the time, probably, your brother. Okay, so, but he was having it, and there's no facility that was trustworthy and effective. Okay, I know how to make a facility that your brother would have been happy to go to. Just check out Pritikin.com. Totally different experience. It's like a vacation. Okay, see, that's what, if you go to Pritikin.com, check it out. That's what can cure, the formula I came up with for curing addictions it's a 4-part thing. So my dad's book deals with most of the parts, but not all of them. So my dad would look at reality, relationships, world stress. Okay, so, but it didn't look at God and post-traumatic stress and family therapy. So I'm adding to my dad's program Dr. Figley's, and also this dimension that involves whatever religion somebody's in, or, you know, God. So the awkward word. Okay, so by the way, let me say again, I'm sorry that this happened, and it shouldn't have happened, and I was a big fan of Rob Reiner, so I put him on there. This is 100 celebrities and leaders who are on missions that they want to fix something in the world. So everybody on here are people that I admired a lot, and I thought, let's create a TV show for their missions called The Mission. So like Rob Reiner's mission, I think that's from a award he got from global warming, the picture. So most of them are pictures from their missions. So Oprah, when she went to Africa, and then there's Bono, and when he went to Africa with Bill Gates, and, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, governor. Okay, so President Clinton, Billy Graham, Oprah, actually, Stedman Graham, You Can Make It Happen, that's his book. Then I'm on there, then my dad. Okay, so put this together in 2006. Then my friend who knows Ed Asner took me into him. We sat down and he read my proposals and he said, Chris, I want to help you out. Okay, and he wanted to help us out, and we were going to create a TV show called The Mission. Okay, but then we got derailed, unfortunately. So, but it was for the right, couldn't happen then. Okay, it was premature. Anyway, let me see. So, that's what happened to Britney Spears. Maurice Bernard, so he's a friend of Michael Sutton. So Michael Sutton said he's going to introduce me. So Maurice Bernard, in his book, he started having these breakdowns in his maybe 20s. So, and then the doctors diagnosed him as bipolar, and they put him on drugs. Then it got worse, and it was just and then he ended up in a mental hospital for a month where they strapped him down, and it was a nightmare, like, horror show, torture. So, and then he's been taking the bipolar drugs for the next 20 years. So, Dr. Drew Pinsky, he read it. This is a heartfelt, inspiring. So we're going to talk about Dr. Drew Pinsky. I called into Dr. Drew Pinsky a few years ago and talked to him. Told him about my dad and the Pritikin Longevity Center, and he said, oh yeah, when I was in medical school, we heard all about the Pritikin Longevity Center where they can reverse illnesses with healthy living, and you know, like everybody knows about that, but nobody will do it. Okay, well, I figured out why, Dr. Drew. Oh, sorry, we gotta go. Commercial break or something. Okay, so I didn't get to tell him the whole dang story. Okay, I was trying to bring it together. Okay, my life is a story of the last 20 years of trying to bring together people to share the cure. And the Reiner family has been like in the circle. Okay, Tracy was like a miracle person for me. She was really supportive and like stuck her neck out and didn't even know what she was getting into. Okay, I just talked to her a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, and she seemed to want to work on this again. Okay, but I haven't called her because I don't think she wants to hear from me right now. So I always bring up like big issues. So Mehmet Oz, he endorsed this. So Mehmet Oz got my proposals. Mehmet Oz, Dr. Dean Ornish. Okay, let me back up. So part of the reason why I'm doing this is so you can have this for it's only fair that this all comes out in court. So timeline. Let me interject something that's like horrific, and then I'll try to do the whole timeline. All right. So this isn't the first time this has happened. In 2013, so my friend of mine that I've known for 30 years, his ex-wife is a good friend of Dr. Dean Ornish and John Paul DeJoria, the Austin billionaire. Okay, and Dean Ornish, who I think we're going to be working with. So Dean Ornish has a program in his books that is similar to my dad's, and it can reverse addictions and eliminate them, and most illnesses also. So it's pretty much identical. So he agrees pretty much. So (2013), I know this is complicated, okay, but if you can just stick with me, we're going to do a more, professional timeline with pictures and documents and, everything organized. But this is like spur of the moment. I'm pulling together the whole thing and trying to do a bunch of the critical facts because, it's just not right and it's going to happen again. And oh, by the way, there are people that are going to Christmas parties and they're going to encounter the same situation and there's nobody to call. Okay, that's the bottom line. And there could be. Okay, so, yeah, I'm in a rush. So, anyway, it'll evolve on its own timeline and I don't want to rush anybody into anything. Okay, and I have a lot of questions to answer in person. Okay, but when I get in person, I tend to motor mouth even more, and then I get even more excited, and I can be hard to follow. So at least now I can collect my thoughts, and I can go through the whole thing. So this is hard to talk about. Okay, so Rick Warren's son killed himself, and then his friend, who was my friend's nephew, killed his stepmother with an axe in 2013. Okay, so same story. Put him on the labels at a young age, put him on the drugs, drug and alcohol problems, in and out of rehab. There is no room at the inn. Okay, he's homicidal and suicidal. Uh-oh. They kicked him out of a Los Angeles facility and he went home and killed his mother, my friend's sister-in-law. I didn't know any of this until years later. Okay, it happened. Okay, I just found out about it a year ago. All right, so and it's the exact same story. He was gonna. Okay. He got kicked out of the mental health facility. He was having a drug problem and an alcohol problem. Similar drugs. His mom didn't want him to stay there because he may have threatened her already. He was staying with the dad and the stepmother, and they wanted him to leave. And my understanding, he was facing homelessness, and so he killed her with an axe. Okay, so now he's been in jail for 8 years. Totally well, they didn't bring this all up in trial, so they could fix the problem. "12 years later." Okay, so if they had all this information in the trial, then okay, so I've been talking to Oscar Jr. Dozens of times in the last almost a year. He's in the jail up here in Lancaster, I think, and they feed him terrible food, and so the people are going hungry. Not enough. And there's regular riots and stabbings of guards. Okay, and then they go into lockdown, and he feels like he's under threat constantly. Okay, I'm not even going to get into the details. Okay, so this kind of experience, this is then those kind of people get out and they're different level of a problem than your son, even, who was homeless. Okay, because he was homeless because he didn't have a facility that was acceptable to him. And there's nothing wrong with if the people going there say, yuck, this is terrible, this is a nightmare, we should make it better. So again, check out Pritikin.com. I don't know of any other residential where a bunch of celebrities have stayed, and congresspeople and Henry Waxman. Okay, so Sutton. Michael Sutton knows him because Michael Sutton was in General Hospital. I might as well mention this if anybody watching this knows Michael Sutton. So his father was Joseph Sutton. He wrote this book, The Heart of Hollywood. So he was a agent or a PR person for a bunch of people, Oprah, the Beach Boys, there's a bunch of them. And let's see. So I was introduced to Michael. This is a book about how he was an agent for all these famous people, and then he got super depressed, and then he went through some programs where he learned how to meditate and other experiences, and then he healed, and he wrote a whole book about it, and he wanted to share it with the world. So I was introduced to his son by Ray Sutton. So Ray Sutton I've known for 30 years. He introduced me to Tracy Reiner because they went to high school together. So he introduced me to Tracy Reiner back in 2016. Let me tie up a few things that I didn't get to before, that I didn't fully finish. So let's see. As I was saying, I may not get to go through the whole timeline because, okay, so I'm already halfway through this amount of time that I have. So, but when you hear the whole timeline of, let's see, John Candy went into the Pritikin program, but the Pritikin program didn't help him deal with his relationship with his father. He went into the Pritikin program because Carl Reiner convinced him to, because they worked on a movie together, and but so he went through the Pritikin program where he learned to exercise and eat right, but he didn't deal with his relationship with his father. He had a broken relationship with his father, and so afterwards he still couldn't quit smoking and eating junk food, and he wasn't able to keep the weight off. That's because the Pritikin program, according to my dad, the design my dad helped create, didn't have deal with your relationship with your father or your family in there. So that's what most addictions facilities don't deal with. They deal with the individual, and that's the identified patient, and you're the sick one, and everybody else is fine. Your dad's a great director. Oh my God, I'm a big fan of his, but you are an addict. Okay, so it's like another word for loser, okay, in most people's mind, unfortunately. So, but, you know, the fact is we're all addicted to something. Junk food, nicotine, alcohol, illegal drugs, Haagen-Dazs ice cream. You know, I quit drinking alcohol and I'm having Haagen-Dazs ice cream every day. Okay. Another story. Okay, if the stress, the shit is this high, okay, you're going to need to relieve it. All right? Excuse me for forgetting about the gravity of the situation, because shoot, I've been talking about this stuff for so long that my mind tends to wander. Okay, so my audience. So this may be seen by the Reiner family. Okay, so you've been through something beyond comprehension. So my dad just died a couple years ago. because he got poisoned with bad drugs. And I'm just, let me tell you a bad habit as I proceed. Okay, sometimes I like, my mind goes towards humor, and it's not that I'm not like a really serious person, but it's just that when I'm a free flow talking, I just can't help it. Okay, and it's hard for me to look up because this is actually difficult information to go through. Okay, but I've got like a bunch of different connections to the Reiner family and to Carrie Fisher from the last 20, 30 years. Okay, and Barbara Lazaroff. She created a movie called The Cure with Sharon Stone. It's all about the cure for post-traumatic stress. So I've been trying to get them together with the Reiner family at the Palazzo d'Amore since 2016. Okay, so 2016. Let me just focus on there. Then I'm going to run out of time, and then I can do the whole thing like another day. Okay, hopefully the Red Seas will be parted for a few more days. Okay, so literally. All right. So anyway, okay, Tracy Reiner. See, I learned about Dr. Perry. He's a good friend of Rob Reiner from the 1990s. They talked to the Governors Association, I think, and then I'm sure they did. I'm just not sure about the date. Then in the 2000s, they passed that bill which raised billions of dollars for nicotine addictions. And I think all it did was like put a bunch of labels and signs up saying cigarettes will kill you and they're addicting. Maybe it created some programs, but billions of dollars raised. What people need is they need universal mental health care and in the schools, because at that time your brother was how old? Okay, born 1993, that means he was 10 years old. That was well before he had the problem. So if they're doing something on raising billions of dollars for nicotine addiction, well, nicotine addiction is the same as alcohol addiction or heroin addiction or cocaine addiction or food addiction. As Rob Reiner, did he have that? Did he have any addictions problems for himself? I don't know. So what people need is like treatment. So, you know what? I got off track. So Obama and this lady were domestic violence survivors, and they came on in the music awards a few years ago, and they said, if you're having a problem, ask for help, get help. Well, there is no help. Okay, there's no help because our leaders, including Obama, have not been funding universal mental health care. So it's available in the schools, and when kids are having a problem getting D's and F's, etc., if they're getting bullied, there's plenty of people to get help. So I have a friend who lives 3 houses down. He owns a house there, and he's a teacher at high school chemistry locally, here in Riverside, locally, Murrieta, or somewhere close. And like a bunch of the kids are having problems, and they're not getting counseling. They're not getting effective counseling. There may have been 1 or 2 sessions, which they didn't enjoy. So it's the same situation. It starts out there, and then they're saying, and nobody listens to them. Now your dad, Rob, really tried. He really put in a massive effort. He didn't just try. He accomplished a great deal. Okay, but there's other factors in the situation. which he couldn't get at alone. And that's why you need free counseling, just freely available with effective people. If you feel like they're not effective and so you don't want to turn to them at 11 o'clock at night, or they cost $300 an hour, but they're only available between 9 in the morning and 6 o'clock at night, an advance notice when you make an appointment, okay? So I've been through it, of having family members having like breakdowns and anger, or having taken cocaine or something, okay? So, and then who do you call? The police? No, you can't call the police. Okay, so anyway, we're going to go through all of this. Okay, it's just like, I mean, you guys are all now witnesses. You saw your brother needed help, your dad. Okay, but back to your dad. Okay, I didn't see the movie they did together yet. Okay, but sounds like it was an awesome movie. Okay, because, and your dad recognized that there was something wrong in the system, and he apologized, and he spent all that time with your brother making a monumental effort to set things right. Okay, but that is very unusual. Okay, but the reason why it didn't stick needs a thorough discussion. Okay, he couldn't do it on his own. Okay, there has to be like professionals like Dr. Figley, and so I was trying to get him into your family for the last 10 years, and there's no way that I can adequately, okay, through Tracy. So I know from talking to her that there's this estrangement. I don't know the degree, okay, but then I saw your brother and your dad did the movie a few years ago, and I thought, well, if they're trying to deal with addictions, then they need the Tracy's side of the family, and whatever the rift is there. Okay, also Carl Reiner. Okay, so the fact that Carl Reiner was a spokesperson for the Pritikin diet for so many years, that got like, Tracy was kind of interested in that. Okay, so, and then she was going to do something with Major League Baseball, which was the year of including women and girls in baseball. And so she talked to me about that, and, you know, what do you think about that? You know, like maybe I could be included in it, you know, doing that. And so I said, well, what do you think about doing, we could have 10 women teams, and then they play against each other. I was thinking softball. And then it's also about ending violence against women and girls. And so the reason why I thought of that is because I was thinking, let's see, Taylor Swift was like supposedly having a feud with Katy Perry. And so I thought, wow, if we could have Taylor Swift and all of her best friends playing softball against Katy Perry and all of her best friends, we'd get a lot of people's attention. Okay, and so that was when I first started putting that idea together, which I'm still thinking about doing that. That would be interesting. And then you'd have like military women. There'd be a team, and then, you know, nurses. There would be a team, and then they would all play against, you know, Taylor Swift and her friends, and then, you know, it would be about, you know, and then you'd, you know, anyway, so let's see. Another loose end right here. I didn't really complete this. So I don't like the word, and actually the experts on post-traumatic stress say the same thing, that the label post-traumatic stress disorder, it sounds like something nobody wants. All right. So obviously, an illness nobody wants. Okay. So, okay. I'm thinking again, how can I laugh when somebody just died? Okay. So, anyway, back, Rob, I wanted to work with for a long time. And so this has been very upsetting to me. And so I hope you can be patient with my way of talking, because I'm not as in touch with it. My dad got poisoned a few years ago. We were working together on this for 20 years at the local nursing home with bad drugs that we told him not to give him. And then for the next 2 years he was unable to walk and stuck in bed, and they wouldn't pay for physical therapy that could have healed him. Okay, so and then he died. It's been 2 years now. So and then he died, and I cried for maybe 5 minutes. So I just don't have time for that because I'm so busy. After I accomplish our mission, which was to stop giving people a bunch of worthless drugs, okay, then, so the way I react to these things is I just kind of stuff them down and I don't think about them. But that's not going to last long term. Okay. So, excuse me if don't stick with, I'm really sorry about what you're going through. And, I hope I can share my vision of how it can heal and get better, quickly, and we can heal your whole family and accomplish your dad's mission. So what I'm talking about right here is your dad's mission. All right, he and Bruce Perry had a multi-hour event where Bruce Perry shared about how traumatized teenagers are becoming delinquent, and we really can fix that. And that's Bruce Perry is one of the top experts in the world on that subject. Okay, and so unfortunately, Obama and his team blocked. I took all this information to his team in 2008. I got it through to his team. Okay. And they slammed the door. Some of them liked it a lot. So I sent an email